Okay, so I got a question asking for help with the problems 10 and 11 on the review packet. So I'm sending out this video for anyone who wants help. So we're going to begin by reading the problem carefully. We're going to highlight operation words. We're going to circle the word that means equals and underline key words. Okay, so Ms. Mayton is cleaning under her couch cushion and finds a bunch of dimes and quarters. 11 to be exact. So I know that they add up to 11. Okay? So we're going to keep going. When she adds it up, we're going to need a plus in our step 2. It turns out that, it should be she has 185. Now, has here is actually our equals word, right? The amount of money she has equals 185. How many quarters did, I didn't change it to Mayton. How many quarters did Ms. Mayton find? Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is remember that there's a difference between the number of quarters and the value of the quarters. Okay, so the next thing for step 1 is that we remember that they equal 11 coins. Now, the problem wants us to find quarters. So we're going to use Q as our variable. So how many dimes do we have? Well, we have a total of 11 dimes, right? So that means that however many quarters we have 11 minus Q dimes, right? Because essentially D plus Q equals 11, right? We could understand that. And then if we want Q by itself, we know that we could subtract D. So we get we could, if we want to get D by itself, we can subtract Q, and then we get D, the number of dimes, is 11 minus the number of quarters. Okay, so now, how much are quarters worth? Well, we know that they are worth 25 cents. So we take the number of quarters and we multiply it by 25. Okay, how much are dimes worth? Well, we have to take the number of dimes and multiply it by 10. But because this is a binomial, we have to BYOP, right? We have to take the total number of dimes and multiply it by 10, and that's going to require parentheses. Okay, so our step 2 is going to tell us that something is $1.85. So what is, I'm going to operate in cents because I don't like decimals, right? Well, the amount of money that I have from quarters, which is 25Q, plus the amount of money I have from dimes is equal to 185. And from here, now this looks familiar, right? So in step 3, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to I think it's page 18 of my INB and look up how to solve the equation. I'm going to first distribute my parentheses, okay? And by the way, it's this minus 10Q that is the thing that's most challenging for people because we've got to distribute, right? And then I have to combine my like terms. And you will note if you saw it looks on Classroom that I said that we are going to be allowed to use calculators. And I'll show you at what step it really makes sense to use calculators. Your test is going to take forever if you try to do like 25 minus 10 using a calculator. So then we do minus 110, minus 110. Some of you might use a calculator here, but some of you just know that 15Q equals 75. Then we have to divide by 15. And some of you can do this in your head, but some of you are going to punch that into a calculator and know that Q equals 5. Okay, so we probably would run out of space on our page, but fortunately I have a screen and I can keep going. For step 4, I need my original equation, right? Okay, and everywhere there is a Q, I'm going to put the number 11. So let's just see how that looks without the Q first, right? So we have 25 times Q plus 10 times 11 minus Q. Okay, and reasonableness check, that number is less than 11 and it's a positive number, right? Both of those things would really worry me if it was not true, okay? So now we're ready to start putting in 5 for Q, okay? And then we have to just use our simplifying rules. 5 times 25 is 125. 10 times 6, right? Don't turn your terms into factors. Or don't break up terms. Don't invent new terms, right? Okay, so 10 times 6 is 60. So 125 plus 60 equals 185. That is correct. Hooray. And what was my question again? It was, how many quarters did Ms. Mayton find? Okay, so for step 5, right, I just write, she found 5 quarters. And I'm happy. So let's go on to the next page. And it's similar, but instead of being told a total number of quarters, now we have a relationship. Molly has 2 more quarters than she has nickels, right? More means plus. The collection is worth, there's our equals word, 320. How many nickels does she have? Okay, so I know that I need nickels, and the question asks for nickels, so I want n to be my variable, so that when I solve it, I've got my answer, and then quarters. So how many quarters do I have? Well, it's 2 more than nickels. So if I have n nickels, then I have, what's 2 more than n? I have n plus 2, okay? We don't know what these add up to, but that's okay because we actually don't need to. Now let's do value. Okay, so nickels are worth 5 cents. So we're going to do 5 times n. And if you have 10 nickels, it's 50 cents. And if you have 100 nickels, it's 500 cents, right? Quarters are worth 25 cents. But again, we have a binomial here. We have 2 terms, right? So we've got to put that n plus 2 in parentheses to multiply the whole number of quarters together. And that is worth 320. And if you look at the correct page of your INB, you will see that it writes the value of the nickels, that's 5n. So that was step 1. This is step 2. The value of the nickels plus the value of the quarters is equal to how much money? 320. I don't like to deal with decimals. So now we're ready to move to page, I think it's page 18 of our INB, to look at what should we do next. And the answer is distribute our parentheses so we can get everything into terms, in their own terms. So let's keep going in blue. 5n plus 25 times n is 25n, and 25 times 2 is 50. Okay, and that 50 is the thing that's going to mess the most people up. And that together equals 320. So now that we have no more parentheses, we're ready to combine like terms, right? And so we're going to do 30n plus 50 equals 320. We'll subtract 50 from both sides, and we'll get 30n equals 270. And then we have to divide by 30. And if you don't know this in your head, you can plug it into a calculator, but n is actually going to be 9, okay? And that's a reasonable amount. Now to check, we are going to take our original equation, okay, step 4. I'm going to rewrite it without any n's. And I'm going to, in a different color, plug in n equals 9, and then let's just make sure that makes sense, that what we got works. Okay, so 5 times 9 is 45. 25 times 11, and I'll tell you the 11's trick in a second. Okay, so I have to simplify this. So fun fact, if you're not using a calculator, the way you multiply a 2-digit number by 11 is, you take this 10's digit, it becomes the 100's digit, it goes on the outside. This 5 digit becomes the 1's digit, it goes on the outside. And because we're multiplying by 11, 2 plus 5 is 7, and 25 times 11 is 275. Check your calculator, it always works. Sometimes you have to carry, but that trick always works. 45 plus 275, well, again, if you're not using a calculator, 5 plus 5 is 10, carry the 1, so that's 12. And 3, and 320 equals 320. We're happy, happy campers. And our question was, How many nickels does she have? And look, there's our answer. So we're just going to write it in step 5 for our last point. She has 9 nickels. And that's the end of page 11. Good luck.